Hello, it's Paul Beckwith, and I think I inadvertently hit the wrong button on my phone and stopped the previous video when I didn't intend to. So anyway, I want to talk about, one of the big concerns moving forward with abrupt climate change is the risk of the jet stream getting stuck in an unfavorable position for an extended period of time. It is extremely high that it can reach these resonances with the Earth. So when a certain number of wavelengths, high, low, etc., stretches around the Earth in the jet stream Rossby wave, if you reach modes 6, 7, or 8, according to a paper by Mann from a while ago, then the waves can be amplified. They can reach kind of a resonance, which depends on the position of the land versus the ocean at the latitude where in the northern hemisphere where the jet stream is circumventing the globe. And these highs can get higher and higher, further and further up in latitude, and the lows can get to lower latitudes, and these waves can then get stuck and be persistent. Now, the big threat to the global food supply, according to a recent paper that was just published, which I'll talk about, I'll show you the gory details of this paper soon, but I wanted to get sort of an overview of it now. So basically, what happens is, according to this paper, if you have wave number 5 or wave number 7, then the highs will coincide with regions for growing crops around the planet. So for example, they'll coincide, you'll get a persistent high, so that's very, very high temperatures, and drought, no rainfall, persisting for weeks on end. And if they're with wave number 5 and 7, you'll get the high over North America, either over the crop growing regions of the U.S., and that will coincide with a high over Europe, over regions for crop growth in Europe, and that will also correspond with a high over parts of Asia. And in each of these highs, it will you'll get a hit to your crop production. Okay, so yields of crops will go down simultaneously in these regions when you get this mode 5 or mode 7 of the jet stream configuration. So this is extremely concerning. So what this paper does is it looks at the likelihood, it looks at a bunch of different modes of the jet stream, and again, the jet stream is waves. You get a high and then a low and then a high and then a low and then a high and then a low. So when you get 7 of these waves around the Earth, or 5 of these waves around the Earth, then the highs correspond to cover regions of food production. So in other words, crop failures in North America can then be associated with crop failures in Europe and crop failures in Asia, all because of this particular configuration of the jet stream. So what this paper does is it looks at how those particular modes, the 5 and 7 modes, get stuck. And those are the situations that we saw, for example, in 2003 in the heat wave over Europe. Okay, that was in one of those modes. And also in the high that was stuck over Moscow in 2010, coinciding with the low stuck over Pakistan. And in Moscow, that reduced 40% of the grain yields, and they could no longer export wheat, and that caused prices to spike in the Middle East, and we had the Arab Spring. So we're playing with a bit of fire here. The paper also looked at the different crop growing regions of the world, and it aligned the jet stream modes over those regions to estimate how much of a crop loss there would be. So depending on the temperature anomaly in the ridge of the jet stream, they could calculate and estimate that, you know, the crop loss. And over that few weeks, in some cases, in one region it may be 4%, in another region 10% and 15%. You know, but when you combine those, you know, when they're happening simultaneously, then you can have problems. You can have shortages. And as we know from the coronavirus, when there's shortages in a country, that country will start turning inward and only basically caring about themselves. I mean, think of the situation with masks and ventilators. When there are shortages, you know, countries were unwilling to ship them to other countries. So anyway, I'll be talking about that paper, and I'll also talk about a paper. I mentioned it in some previous videos, but basically it talks about, you know, as the jet stream gets wavier and more distorted, it's the area under the jet stream that can encompass people in, you know, heat waves and drought. So as climate change proceeds and the waves get we get more wave amplitude in the meridional direction, we can get larger areas, and that can affect larger numbers of people. And this paper found out basically that the region under the jet stream, if you like, is really proportional to the thickness of the jet stream.